Good afternoon, everyone. It's Master Jose Torres coming to you live with the Martial Arts Experience. We've had an amazing December with all of these amazing new guests coming, and tonight's guest is just as special. I've been trying to actually talk to this gentleman for a while, so I'm so blessed that he was able to get some time and come on to our show this evening. So, without a further wait for him, let's bring him on now. Our special guest, Kung Fu brother, Ron Hall. How you doing, Ron? How's everything?
I'm doing fine, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing well, sir. And where are you at right now, sir? Where in the world is Ron Hall right now?
I'm in my hometown of Washington, D.C. I'm from Washington, D.C. I love everything about Washington, D.C. I feel that Washington, D.C. kind of built the foundation for everything I've done in my life. So I just love D.C.
Awesome, awesome. And then, and you're leaving, right? You're going somewhere else now after this as well?
Yeah. I'm actually going to Greensboro, North Carolina to interview John Negron, who's one of the top Bruce Lee collectors in the world. I'm
Wow.
interviewing him for my documentary, Fight Scene Fanatics, and then I'm headed back to Atlanta.
Awesome, awesome. Now, Ron, let's jump right in. So, obviously, let's first talk about your martial arts history. How'd you get started? You know, what inspired you to just get involved with martial arts training?
What inspired me to get involved with martial arts training is two things. One, I was bullied when I was a kid. I went to a school with a lot of kids that used to bully me. So all the teachers, recommended that I take martial arts. And the other thing was I fell in love with martial art movies as a small child. I can
Right.
remember one night just waking up and hearing Bruce Lee on the TV in Marlowe and catching the image when he was fighting James Garner on the roof and just was amazed by that. And those combinations of two things kind of led to my martial art development and then my film making development years later.
Now, what was the first martial arts training that you started? You know, what was the first art form that you first encountered?
Sure, you talking? When I couldn't. Let me just raise this up a little bit and see if I can get my sound. Hmm. Okay, what was your question again?
What was the first martial arts that you started to train in? What's the
Oh,
first?
okay, sure. Yeah, I took a Mudokwan karate at a place called the Kenilworth Recreation Center in Washington, D.C. by an
Wow.
instructor named William Phillips, who's still around. I think he's 91 years old. And
Wow.
it was an amazing experience because, I think at that time I was about 7 or 8 years old. And this grown man who was 30 years, older than me was like kicking me full force in the chest with little kids sliding across the class. So it was like an amazing experience, thinking back on those times.
Wow. Wow. Now is Mudokwan is that the only system that you studied, or is there, anything else that you kind of dived into?
Yeah, well, no, I studied Mudokwan first. A lot of times people will ask me about my kicking style, and my kicking style is basically things that I learned from, Mudokwan. A lot of people realize I have a lot of like circular kicks. I got
Right.
all of that from Mudokwan, crescent kicks, tornado kicks, all that I got from Mudokwan. And then years later, I took Wushu under Willie Lynn and Dennis Brown at a place called Eastover Shopping Center in Washington, D.C.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So what's your favorite? Do you like karate better, or do you like wushu better?
Oh, I have no preference. I like them for different reasons. I think the energy and the the fortitude that you need to fight. I think that's more from karate, and then the movement, the flow, the transition, how the moves look, how they work together. I think that comes from kung fu. So that's kind of what I wanted was like my two primary influences were Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. I
Mm,
love the way Bruce Lee fought, and I love the way Jackie Chan moved. So
right.
that was a combination of how I developed my style.
Got you. Got you. Now, Ron, to close out your martial arts career, did you were you competitive? Did you compete at all, or did you just train? You know, what's the background of your training?
No, I never competed. I
Mhm.
just fought a lot when I was a kid. You know, I had to fight all the time. And I would fight. It wasn't like I was like really good at fighting, but I fought a lot and had to fight till I lost. meaning that gang of guys used to always, approach me. So there were certain guys I could always beat until I got to the guys who were like 3 or 4 years older than me and 2 feet taller than me, that
Right.
there was nothing I could do except just take the blows and either cry or run.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So what pushed you then? And obviously a lot of our viewers, we follow martial arts, martial arts experience. We interview a lot of celebrities like yourself, action stars. And a lot of people know a lot of movies, So how did you get involved with movies? How did you first get involved in the movie industry?
Sure. Me getting in the movie industry I always tell people that whatever you want to do in life, you literally can start from wherever you are, because your actions will probably lead you to some opportunity that will afford you the chance to go in the direction that you want to go. I had no idea of how to get into movies, how to be involved with movies. I did acting as a child. I would do some plays and stuff like that, but never pursued it. I had gone in the army, so I had long thought I would never be involved in martial art movies. Just so happened, Chuck Jeffries, who was a fellow student in the same school I was, he used to make movies with George Chung of a Black Belt magazine now, and Forms competitor that used to work with Cynthia Rothrock. They had a movie seminar, how to get into movies. So I
Wow.
went to this seminar. It was over the course of a weekend, and they basically outlined all the steps that I needed to be in movies. Move to California, get to know stunt coordinators, get your headshots, get a demo reel, get to know people, put yourself out there, make yourself available. They literally laid out a roadmap that I literally followed. And it took me about a year to get from the time that I saw that, went to that seminar, till when I was actually in a movie was about a year.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty quick. Wow.
Yeah.
No,
My first opportunity actually was given to me by one of my heroes, Grandmaster Eric Lee. I would always read about his exploits in Inside Kung Fu magazine. And I
right.
can remember going to see his movies, Weapons of Death, at the movie theater, and just thought it was awesome. And he was one of the very first persons I was able to get in contact with. And he gave me an opportunity. Him and Art Camacho, they were choreographers on a movie called Deadly Bet with Jeff Wincott for PM Entertainment. And so they gave me a little small part as a fighter in that movie. So that was like my very first movie role.
Okay. Wow. 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 And then, so you got that first movie role. How then did you navigate, moving forward? What was what would you consider, I guess, that next big, role? Did you
Sure.
have it, or did you do a lot of small
Yeah,
ones?
the next big step was, I got a demo reel made. And, I started to send my demo reel out. One of the people who I sent my demo reel to was Jackie Chan. So I
Wow.
sent it to Jackie Chan, and I would say probably about like 3 or 4 months later, I get home from work and I had a giant tube waiting for me at the door where I lived. And I was looking at the tube, and I rolled around, had all these stamps on it. It was like from Hong Kong. I was like, and it said from Jackie Chan. So I was like, oh man. And actually, I still have the letter. I found it when I was moving. I still have the letter. Jackie wrote a letter saying, Ron, I saw your demo. You look great, blah, blah, blah. But I'm no longer a director. I'm just an actor. However, if you come to Hong Kong, here's my number. Get in contact with me. And so after that, they had a thing in Los Angeles called the American Film Market, where buyers and sellers of movies all around the world go to, market their movies. And I couldn't afford to get in. So what I did was I waited till late night when everybody was gone. And I took about 15 of my demos and just laid them outside of the doors of the AFM. Well,
Wow.
the next day, 3 movie companies called me. One of them was Frankie Chan from Prodigal Son. Another one was a guy named David Hung. He was doing movies at the time with Dale Apollo Cook. And then the third person was Mark DeSalle from Jean-Claude Van Damme, who did the Jean-Claude Van Damme and Jeff Speakman movies. So
Wow.
they all contacted me at the same time, and basically was interested in using me to make movies.
Wow. Wow. So what was the first one? Because you mentioned some heavy hitters there. And
Sure.
Mark DeSalle, of course. So what was that next first one? Was that Bloodsport 2?
No, the first one I did was Triple Impact with Dale Apollo Cook and Bridget Baby Doll Riley. That's actually my first movie, and of all my movies, is the most complete film. It's my favorite because it's just a lot of fun. You know, the action scenes are solid. You know, the chemistry with me and Dale and Bridget is fun, and I just love that movie. It's really my favorite movie of all the movies I've done.
Wow, wow. Is that and where could someone as far as for that one? Where is that streaming? Is that can anybody where can
I
they
know
access?
it's on Tubi, and
Okay,
I think you can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Tubi, another
okay.
couple of other platforms, but it's out there. Yeah.
Got you, got you. What was like that going from having a smaller role to those, smaller projects that you had to then going into like a bigger, bigger budget, more feature like that? What was that like for you?
I really didn't believe it. You know, it was just kind of like you're just going through the motions because am I really going to be starring in a movie to get
Yeah,
to do what I want to, So I went through all the steps, getting my passport, going to the Philippines, I met some excellent fight choreographers. They were actually they were Filipino, but they had worked with like Jackie Chan on like Armor of God and a lot of other movies.
wow.
So that's one thing that I had to learn was that these Filipino fight choreographers was actually as good as the Hong Kong guys.
Oh wow.
Because at first I was like, I'm in the Philippines, like I'm not sure what the action is going to look like because I don't even think I saw a Dale Apollo Cook movie before I worked with him
Got you.
you
Okay.
know, but they were excellent. Actually, they developed I learned kind of my fighting style through them, meaning I had an idea of what I would like to do. They showed me how to actualize it by showing me the basics, where the camera is, where I move in relation to the camera, how to get certain results, how to set up motion and pay off action. I learned all these things through these Filipino fight choreographers.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
And they worked with a lot. Those guys worked with a lot of people. They worked with like Dolph Lundgren, in whoever in the '90s. If they went to the Philippines to do a martial art related film, this stunt group worked with all of them. So they were really highly respected, and they were all very talented.
Awesome. Wow. Now, Ron, what was the next project after that film?
Sure. The next movie I did after that was Double Blast.
Double
And it
Blast.
was the
Okay.
same company. It was with Double Blast. It was with Linda Blair, Robert Dazar, Joe Estevez, and Dale Apollo Cook.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
And I was the villain in that one. And you know what? I was actually kind of disappointed when I first got the script because me and Dale had done this movie. And they were like, "Oh, Rob, next movie, we're going to make you the villain." I was like, "Oh, man. But
Yeah.
then when I saw what it was, I was like, okay, they had a scene where I fight a guy in the office. So instantly what came to my mind was Marlo.
Right.
The Bruce Lee scene where Bruce Lee
Yeah.
goes into the office. And so if you watch that scene, I'm in a suit, I'm, flipping around the room and crashing, kicking into the walls and stuff like that, which was Marlo was kind of like the template to inspire me to approach that scene that way.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
What did you feel at? So at that point, you have these two films and you have these smaller parts. At that point, what was the most difficult stunt that you had to do at that point?
Well, the most difficult stunt that I had to do at that time. Okay. There's a kick that I do in Double Blast. It's kind of like, they call it like a 540 kick.
Okay.
So I saw that Yin Bu do it in The Prodigal Son. And I was just like, and then I saw Chuck Jeffries did. Chuck Jeffries actually was the first non-Chinese person I saw do that. He had a show in Washington, D.C. called Pick Up the Beat, where he played, it was like a man called Pigeon. Take off on a man called Hawk. So I saw Chuck Jeffries do it. So I wanted to try that kick, and I did that kick off of some rocks. I was actually standing on some rocks, and it was a bigger rock, and so I had to take a step and then jump over the rock to the other side of the rock. But it came out, it came out good. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Unbelievable. Yeah, that was different days then, right? There was no wires, no harnesses,
No,
no
no,
nothing, right?
no. It's just like, I'm not even sure if it was a mat, honestly. It was just like, Ron, you sure you can do this? And I'm like, I think I can do it. I want to do it. But,
Right.
that's kind of how, we just did it. And, it either worked or didn't work. But I was lucky enough that it worked.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So after you finish those, what's the next one? Because there's two that I'm leading to. So what's the next film that came after that one?
Yeah, the film that came out. Me and Dale Paulo did a third film, which was a Raw Target.
Raw Target. Okay.
Yeah, it was a movie with me, Dale Apollo Cook, and Nick Hill, who I ultimately was in Bloodsport 2 with. Nick Hill was
Ah,
the villain. So that was kind of like a Lethal Weapon type movie. It was a lot of gunplay in it, which was cool. And there
yeah.
was a lot of action. You know, it was a lot of action too, but it was the third movie that me and Dale did together. And I enjoyed working with Dale Apollo Cook. He was very professional. He was a lot of fun. He had a great sense of humor. And so we got along great. And we had a great time making those movies.
Ron, and all three of those movies that you mentioned, were they all based out of the Philippines? You did them all out of the Philippines or no? Just the first two?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow. So then after that, that's then when you got the opportunity for Bloodsport 2.
Yeah. Well, what happened was I had, when I told you earlier that there were three groups that contacted me, one of them was Mark DeSalle. So he basically offered me a multi-picture deal, under the same auspices like he did Jeff Speakman and Jean-Claude Van Damme, that he wanted to put me in some martial art movies. But at that time, what was an issue was that I was a black guy, and they told me this. They told me that the issue was that the primary issue was that martial art movies weren't that big, and black films didn't sell that well.
Mm,
However, they believed that I would be. They basically said you could be like the Michael Jordan of martial art movies.
wow.
So they signed me to a multi-picture deal, and I stayed under contract for about 2 years waiting to do a movie with them.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
And at that time, I met Jeff Speakman. Me and Jeff Speakman actually, we both were signed at the same time, waiting to do a movie, and we got to know each other very well. We really, we would pass back information back and forth about what's going on and what's going on in your movie, what's going on in my movie. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. So how did you were you excited when you were contacted for Bloodsport 2, or how was the
Okay.
initial reaction,
Sure.
coming off of Bloodsport?
Well, how Bloodsport 2 happened was after actually Mark had made another deal with me to a studio in Florida that I went to go live in Florida to do a movie called Home Turf. And that movie never materialized, but I went down there and I lived at the studio and they were trying to put it together. So after that didn't work, Mark said, "Okay, Ron, we're going to try something else. We're going to do Bloodsport 2. And we're going to do it kind of like Lethal Weapon. We have another guy. He's not Van Damme, but he's like Van Damme. And we're going to put you two guys, and you guys are going to go to Kumite and be a buddy." So I was like, I was excited. And I got to meet Daniel. Me and Daniel developed a close, like brother-like relationship. We got to know each other very well. And we waited maybe about a year and a half to do Bloodsport 2. But then what happened was Mark was no longer, for some reason, the project changed hands and Mark DeSalle was no longer involved, and an entirely new production came on to Bloodsport 2. And then Isaac Florentine actually was going to be the director of Bloodsport 2.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
now the role that was written for me was changed, and it was now a smaller character instead of being kind of like a character. It was actually a smaller character, and then I had to re-audition for my role.
Oh
And I
wow.
can remember Isaac Florentine was like, "Ron, your skills are great, but I think you're a little bit too small to fight Daniel Bernhardt." That was what he thought, that I was a little bit. He wanted Daniel to be paired with a guy Daniel's size. And Daniel was probably about 5 or 6 inches taller than I was.
Right.
But
Right.
according to what people tell me, all these years, people say that's one of the best fights in all the Bloodsport movies. So, you know, I think I did okay in that fight with Daniel Bernhardt.
Listen, this is a sexy guy right here that we put up here with the sleeveless, the
All
picture
right.
of you. You look great. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking of, sir. I don't know what they were thinking of. I think I remember watching that film. I loved watching your kicks in that. You had great stage presence and the energy that you brought. I mean, it was an outstanding. I think you did a great job.
You know what? And I had just made a post about this not too long ago. When I first got to Thailand to do Bloodsport 2, what happened was we were coming to the set, and when I was looking off the bus, I saw these Thai guys, and they were doing some amazing acrobatic stuff that was very different from the Hong Kong stuff. And then they were putting a little impact in it, and I was like, "Uh-oh!" I was like, "I'm gonna have to up my game on this movie." So I literally, while I was there making the movie, I was working out things that I wanted to try based on how I saw those Thai stuntmen develop. And it's literally kind of like the Ong Bak style in its embryonic stages.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't know if you're familiar with the guy. His name is Singh. He has a stunt team, very, very prestigious, very famous. He's worked with just the who's who of the martial art community. He's in Thailand, and that was his stunt team at the time.
Wow. Wow. Now, the initial, how did you feel, after Bloodsport 2 came out? So they had reduced the role. Did it still, I mean, did it help you as far as, the next projects, or did you feel, you know what I mean? You weren't happy with, obviously.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Well, I will tell you that I got a lot of praise from Bloodsport 2 at the time. I mean, there were people that, were calling me, say, "Oh man, I want to make a movie with you. I want to put you in my next movie." And for that went on for about a year, just all these promises about movies, and none of it happened. None of it happened. And
Yeah.
and I was wondering like what to do. So I think at that time I was toying with the idea of becoming a filmmaker myself. I had a guy who was representing me, and he said he would take my demo tape around, and people would watch it, and they go, "That guy that fast? Can he do that? Can he flip over this? And he can do that?" And he said, "Yeah, let's make a movie with this guy." And they say, "Oh well, he said they would give him some excuse." So he told me, he said, "Ron, people may not know what to do with you, and ultimately, you might have to learn how to make your own movies to present yourself how you want to be seen."
Right.
And I
Right.
think that was some good advice and some solid advice. Yeah.
Right. Right. Now let's talk about the iconic, and you had just did a social media post about it, the Vampire Assassins. Talk to me about that film, because we have a fellow brother that was part of that project as well, Gerald Okamura.
Yeah. Vampire Assassin is the movie that just will not die. It's Vampire Assassin comes up in my life all the time. And Vampire Assassin was a project that I was trying to make my ultimate statement in martial art movies, the Slow Die Fast, which was my spaghetti western kung fu magnum opus. Use my own money. I found a western town in Studio City. It was a complete western town, buildings and everything. Nobody was there. Nobody owned the property. We just went there and shot. Never was, I shot there for over a year and a half. Nobody ever bugged us about anything. And
Wow.
when I was making that, and this was when DV very first came out. Like when they first, I had I think a Canon Optura. It was like one of the first digital video cameras. So I had done the Slow Die Fast on that. But what happened was I didn't have any backup. And so once I got the movie cut, my computer crashed and I lost the entire cut. Lost the
Oh,
entire cut. Just only thing I had was the trailer that I ultimately was able to put together from just pieces of VHS that I had transferred stuff to. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you can see the trailer that I made for the Slow Die Fast. So
wow.
what had happened was I had choreographed a couple of movies for David Huey. David Huey he was a independent producer. He did movies with Richard Norton, Olivier Gruner, Daniel Bernhardt, Gary Daniels, and
Hmm.
so I showed it to him. So he liked it, and he said, "Hey Ron, you know what?" He said, "Think of something that we can do." So I was thinking about ideas to do, and then he told me, he said, "Hey Ron, I want you to do something like Blade.
Hmm.
I want you to do a vampire hunter killer, Blade type movie." So I was like, okay, you know what? That seems like, you got Blade and you got low budget Blade. So I'm like, okay, so I started putting together, and he also Mel Novak and Gerald Okamura were also doing movies for David Huey. So he said he wanted those two guys in the movie. So think of roles that they could play, So Mel's a great, Mel's just a great character actor, just a force in movies. So I
Yeah.
knew, and then just same with Gerald. Gerald is a very special
Yeah.
actor. He really is very special.
Yeah.
And we walked through fire making that movie, and I just love both of those guys, And
Yeah.
so we didn't, we basically had very little money, enough to get a camera, feed people, buy and make costumes, and get locations for basically free.
Right.
And and I had a team at the beginning of the movie. I had a team, But what happened was, as the movie was going on, people were like subjecting me to all type of drama and changes, and people would quit. So it was like, either do I stop the movie or do I continue the movie? So I did the best I could to keep the movie going, working as, caterer, costume designer, location manager, fight choreographer,
Yep.
and then another aspect of it was, the guys, since I wasn't paying guys, they would get meal copying credit. Nobody wanted to do the choreographies that I had designed for them. So literally, most times what I had to do is go, what is it that you want to do? Show me. And then I would fight around what they wanted to do
Oh my God.
in order to do it.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Listen.
And yeah,
that
but
is so crazy.
Vampire Assassin, there's so many things about Vampire Assassin. One is, I can remember when I first saw it, and there's a scene, in my mind, I had this scene where Derek Washington, the cop, confronts the vampire Slovak, and they're in this room, and I had envisioned like a Slovak male turning into like dozens of bats flying away and kind of like rematerializing someplace else. Well, when I saw the cut of the movie, what they had done was basically they had a bat that they created that was the equivalent of, if I took a rubber vampire bat and put it on a screen and dangle it in front of the camera and wave it around, was about the equivalent of that special effect in that movie. And every time I see that special effect, I literally will fall on the ground laughing. Or, it's like they had the After Effects buzzer. It was like the light. When I stab people, I wanted kind of like a light ray to kind of show maybe like their heart being, their spirituality leaving their body.
Yeah.
But the effect that was used was basically, After Effects Lightning 101, where they put it, they had this special effects where it's just basic lightning with the Operation Buzzer sound effect.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. But people love it though, right? I mean, look, it stood the test of
People,
time.
you know what? I'm telling you, thousands of people have written to me about Vampire Assassin, and people tell me it's their favorite movie. People have written books, their own Vampire Assassin movies, their own Vampire Assassin books. They're just, what? The one thing I think about Vampire Assassin is, it's regarded as like a good, bad movie. What I believe is that the premise is really promising.
Right.
It's an intriguing premise. But when people see what it actually is, they're so disappointed that the resources that was given to this premise that's really a good premise, that they go, what the hell is this that I'm watching? But I must tell you, Vampire Assassin has, for the last 20 years, has been a part of my life, especially in the last 5 years. Like, people have been discussing it. I mean, there's a post online, probably has about 3 million views, where they discuss Vampire Assassin. So it's become this thing, and the latest thing that's happened is in the Rock and Chris Evans movie, Red One, Santa gives out copies of Vampire Assassin to people as Christmas presents. And it's not just one time, it's like 4 times in the movie, they say Vampire Assassin. So that was pretty interesting, thing to come across.
That's crazy. Did anybody contact you about that, or no? They just put it in there.
They just put it in there. Yeah, somebody had told me about 6 months ago. They said, Ron, I think your movie is in the Rock's new movie. I was like, what? And it was like, yeah, I think they got Vampire Assassins. I was like, I just thought that was so absurd. I just dismissed it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But it was, it's in the movie.
Wow. Now I gotta ask, all these years later, do you ever think about maybe coming back and doing Vampire Assassin 2
I'm not thinking about it. I'm actually in the process of doing that now. I'm going to make a sequel to Vampire Assassin. It's an idea that I've had for a long time. And, my tentative title is Vampire Assassin and the Legion of Blood. And I want, and actually the challenge to myself is I really want to make the movie with similar resources that I had to make the first one, only to make a better movie, to make something close to what I envisioned, what I thought Vampire Assassin would be. So I'm going to make Vampire Assassin 2, definitely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We love to hear about that. That's all. And you know what? It's crazy. And I've been very appreciative, obviously, with my journey, because the way the technology is now, right? I mean, we have access to different stuff now, right? That you didn't have back then or had to
Sure.
access to. So, I definitely think your next journey is going to be amazing because, you're able to do it. You're able to get access to some of these things and you don't need, $500,000 to make a film. You know what I mean? You could make
Right.
a very good quality film, with the availability of equipment now.
Yeah, it's just about making this, having the vision, making the story, execute as you yourself, who has now become a filmmaker, you have the idea, but then also you have to execute the idea.
Yeah.
And, in the climate that we live with the common household able to make a film, you have to put something a little special on it to engage people to want to watch it because everybody can make their own movies essentially.
Right.
So why are they
Right.
going to watch your movie when they can make a movie?
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, it's I'm gonna trust me. I'm gonna make a Vampire Assassin 2,
That's
and
all.
I I think it will be something to see.
Absolutely. We love to have you back on when you end up help promote it. That would be
Oh
amazing.
yeah, of
Very happy
course.
for you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, after Vampire Assassin, where did the direction take you next?
Well, what happened was Vampire Assassin, I got so much flack from it in the first couple of years, meaning that, people criticized that movie to the nth degree. I mean, Blockbuster Video had sent me a letter saying that I was the most reviewed movie on their website and I had the worst reviews. It's
Oh,
like I had more reviews than Star Wars. And they were all,
oh,
this movie sucks. This is the worst piece of crap. He's dull blade. All of these things, oh man, people rip Vamp. And I could, for years, I couldn't even look at Vampire Assassin. Like anything Vampire, I didn't want anything to do with it. But like I said, I would say maybe 7 or 8 years after I made it, people continued to contact me about Vampire Assassin. So not wanting to headline a movie myself, I thought I would go behind the scenes. So I started focusing on writing. I've written for other people, choreographed other people. I worked with Dolomite on his, in his final movie, and there are other people that I supported to help make films. I just didn't want to take on the responsibility of, headlining a movie and directing it and writing it and all of,
wow.
because that's yourself, that's
Yeah.
a task.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you have to write it, produce it, direct it,
Crazy.
that's a lot to make a movie. And so I worked with other people for probably about a decade. And then I actually had gotten out of the business completely, kind of, I started a business and a lot, another life kind of, but my movies always came up. I had a moving business. And I would often move people who had posters of my movies in the room, or they would go as I'm moving them, they would go, I know you from somewhere. You a boxer? And I'm going, no. And they go like, and I would move people who were like fan of my movies, like
Wow.
I can remember a couple of times I would come out and a little kid would go, oh, that's Blade from Double Blast. So I really could not escape, having done martial art movies. So I was like, okay, since I can't escape it, let me embrace it. Let me go
Yeah.
back into making movies because people have inspired me to do it. Not, I mean, I literally could have left and really been happy for the rest of my life not doing movies.
Right.
But the response that I get from people is that there are a lot of people out there that like my work, that want to see me, that like, I have people that tell me, they grew up, practicing my kicks and, and the style, that I fight and, the way that I fight and stuff like that. So all of that stuff has inspired me. And, I want to do something representative of what I believe I can contribute to martial art action. And in addition, I'm a big fan of Kung Fu movies. I love martial art movies. I love martial art movies. I love the potential of martial art movies. I think martial art movies are an excellent cultural vessel to transmit values such as self-discipline, morality, camaraderie, brotherhood, community. All of these things can be communicated in martial art movies. And, so that's my path, is that I want to do that, whether I'm in front of the camera, behind the camera, or working with other people, it really doesn't matter. I just want to contribute to the ongoing development of martial art movies because martial art movies have played such a part in my life that there's no way that, I don't want to give back to what martial art movies, have meant to me.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Now, Ron, what do you have upcoming projects? Do you have anything that you could talk about? Any
Sure. Sure. Well, the main thing I can talk about is that I've been shooting a documentary for a little over 2 years. I'm nearly completed, and it's called Fight Scene Fanatics. It's about the relationship between people who make martial art movies and the people who are influenced by martial art movies, such
Oh,
as
wow.
fans.
Right.
There's the relationship between them people, people like that is very strong and it's very interesting. And I've learned a lot. I've interviewed some of the world's greatest martial artists. Jeff Speakman, Karen Shepard, Beyond You. I mean, just tons of people. And I learned a lot of incredible things about martial artists. And one of them is most martial artists do something as well as their martial art.
Right.
Meaning you have martial art people who do, violin players, painters,
Right.
writers, architects, all kind of artisans and creative things that's an outflow from their martial arts skill. And that was an amazing thing to see. And it's almost like the one consistent thing that I learned in making that documentary is that if you meet a martial artist who's doing martial art movies, he is as good as something else as he is being a martial artist.
Wow. That's very
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Unbelievable. Now, Ron, since you've done it, you worked with studio, studio money. You've done independent films. What do you feel is the most rewarding? What do you feel is the most rewarding to yourself?
Well, I would tell you, I think like the period that we're in now, we're actually seeing kind of like the dismantling of quote unquote big budget Hollywood. I mean, if you look at, there was a time when everybody saw the same movie at the same time. That no longer applies. People are seeing movies in segments. You have segmented audiences. The markets are becoming smaller, more specific, more refined, and all that has to do with social media. So I believe social media is actually the future of martial art movies, that there's something between traditional Hollywood filmmaking and social medias that will emerge to the next evolution. And I'll give you an example. You have the guys like the Martial Club, the guys like the Dragon Lords, Eric Jacobus Stunt Group, all of these really super talented guys who are driving the way how martial art movies look now came from social media. So
Right.
it's just a matter of time before something hits, and what will emerge will be this kind of union between Hollywood and social media, producing films for smaller audiences. And yeah, I think that is probably the future of martial art movies.
Wow. Wow. Ron, what advice would you give? You have let's say a martial artist, dedicated martial artist, and they're like, man, I want to do this. I want to jump aboard this. Is there any advice that you could give them for kind of, moving forward to say, hey, you can attain this dream that you want?
Sure, absolutely. Well, one thing I would say is I would recommend any person who wants to pursue a martial art career to dedicate themselves to at least one traditional martial art, at least. Because what I find is a lot of guys I've run into can do like an amazing trick. But if it comes to doing one kick, they might not be that good to
Right.
do. When you're making movies, you need to do things in segments and work with other people. But if your whole skill set consists of you running and doing 5, 10 moves with nobody involved with you, it's hard to interact with other people that you have to account for in what you do, what they're doing. So
Right.
I would say have a traditional martial art as your foundation is one thing I would recommend. Another thing I would recommend is start where you are. Where you are, there's somebody making a movie. You have community centers, you got, people, social media, and they're doing all kind of things right where you are. So you don't have to move to Hollywood right away to make a movie. You
Right.
start the basics, learn, maybe go in as an extra, be a part of the production staff. Always be paying attention when you're making a movie because you're working around people. When you're making a low budget movie, you're working around a wealth of knowledge because people who make low budget movies are very talented skill makers they're probably working in the Hollywood system, but they want a different opportunity for themselves.
Right.
And they might have a lot of skill and knowledge that you're able to pick up. Because a lot of people will treat it as, oh, I'm doing this low budget movie and it's just a low budget movie and blah, blah, blah. But you might be working with the cinematographer who shot, Killer's Game.
Right. Right.
So where you are, I would definitely pursue, if you want to pursue martial art films, pursue it exactly where you are until you build some type of base. So those would be the basic two things I would tell anyone who's seeking. Oh, I would add a third thing. I would say what I find is really lacking is many people who want to be in martial art movies don't know about the history of martial art movies. Like they don't know, you know, who Yin Yu is. You know, they don't know who, like, they don't know like movies like Eagle's Claw or, Seven Blows of the Dragon. Like these, trust me, you're not going to make anything super brand. It's going to be unique to you, but trust me, whatever idea you come up with, somebody already did it. It
Right.
just will be channeled through you, and
Right.
that is what will make it original. But
Right.
learn the history, learn what type of movies they are. There are different type of fighting styles. You got Basher fighting styles, you got the Tony Jaa style, you got the Sonny Chiba type style, you got the Shaw brothers, you got, they're all different type of kung fu styles that you can blend and pick and choose, kind of like what Bruce Lee did with Jeet Kune Do. You can actually do that in the realm of martial art filmmaking. I like this style. I like this style. I like how this is presented. Let me combine them and then project it through my own unique lens or vision of how I want to either see it or be seen. So
Right.
those three things I would definitely recommend any person who's pursuing a martial art career.
Listen, to all my viewers, you guys heard it first here from Ron, giving all this information, and Ron's done it on both ends, which I think is amazing, and having the knowledge that you have, and then now kind of embracing, where you are now as a more seasoned, right? You're more seasoned now. So, where do you see, what do you want your legacy to be, Ron? And I know you have this documentary coming up, and if that is your legacy, talk about it. But, where do you want Ron Hall's legacy to be? When you move on, how do you want people to remember you as your
Sure.
dedication and influence to action genre and martial arts?
Sure. I would like people to be able to view my work and see a direct connection and a tribute, affinity, love, and respect for what has come before me. There are many great martial artists that have done amazing work. You may never heard of them. Like, let's see, there's a movie called Kill the Shogun. I can't remember the guy's name right now, but it's a Korean movie. Wong Jung Lee's in it. Casanova Wong's in it. Dragon Lee's in it. You probably have never heard of this movie, and the guy who was the star of it is incredible. If you watch that movie, it's a movie made in the 70s. You're going to be shocked how good this movie is.
Wow.
So, being in the present time, we have to look back at what's come before us because they made it possible. We just didn't do it in isolation, only us. Filmmaking is a collaborative effort. People who, Jackie Chan is responsible for martial artists working today. Jean-Claude Van Damme is responsible. Lauren Avedon is responsible. Jeff Speakman is responsible.
Right.
So that's where I would like people to look at my work and go, it's in the same tradition of martial arts movies that I've seen in my youth or childhood. That is what I would like to, leave one part. Yeah.
Wow. Well, on behalf of our show, Ron, I want to thank you so much for coming out today. I appreciate your time today. We wish you the very best with all your upcoming projects. Do you have a guesstimate as far as when your documentary, you think, is this going to be a 2025 release you're hoping?
Sure. It's going to be a 2025 release. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And then Vampire Assassins, the next chapter. You
will be hearing about Vampire Assassin very shortly.
Sounds good. To all of my viewers today, thank you so much for tuning in. This was such a blessing to have Ron, and we're around the 45-minute mark, so I wanted to make sure that I know you have things to do as well. But I want to thank you so much for your time today, and I appreciate you.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come on your show. And like I said, I really admire and appreciate, because I remember when you were talking about making a movie. I remember that, and that's a difference between talking about a movie and actually making a movie, and you have transcended that. And I look forward to seeing your next one.
Thank you so much. We do have a couple projects we're working on, so thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, sir.
Again, thank you so much to everybody for joining into the Martial Arts Experience.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the next show. Have a great night, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.